Hey there guys, Doug B here, your average axe-wielding hack. Now if you've been paying attention, you know that Fractal has really been kicking out the firmware releases since putting out firmware release 20.00 production back on June 3rd. They put out 20.01 beta on June 17th, 20.01 beta 2 on June 27th, 20.01 production on June 29th, beta 20.02 on June 30th, and then today, well, yesterday by the time you get this, they put out 20.02 beta number 2. So that's like 5 firmware releases in a little over a month. Now we're not going to touch on everything that got updated here. We're just going to touch on the big ones. So ready? Let's go for it. You know, every one of the firmware updates brings us various fixes and improvements, but for this video, I just want to focus on the things that were added to the system by the various firmware updates. So in addition to the various fixes and improvements, firmware 20.01 beta brought a speaker thump, the G12T-75 speaker impedance curve, and the depth control was added to the authentic page for Brit Super, Brit 800 mod, and JMP-1 amp models. Firmware 20.01 Beta 2 gave us the Diamante Fire amp model, based on a Diamond Del Fuego. Firmware 20.01 Production added the 2x12 Class A greenback speaker impedance curve, and the 2x12 two-stone 1265 speaker impedance curve. Firmware 20.02 Beta came out 1 day later with an improved speaker impedance curve fitting algorithm. All of the speaker impedance curves have been updated using the new routine. Cliff also added new speaker impedance curves for 4x12 Lurkst Omega, 1x12 Deluxe Oxford, 4x12 High Power Pete T, 4x12 USA Semi-Open, and 2x12 Dizzy RV. Firmware 20.02 Beta 2 fixed some of the speaker impedance curves that had problems in the earlier release, and it also adds the 4x12 High Power Lindsay B speaker curve and the 4x12 London Town Tall speaker impedance curve. Guys, we'll do a dive into the whole speaker impedance curve thing here in an upcoming video. I'm still trying to wrap my head around why so many of what appear to be speaker parameters are in the amp block and not in the cab block. Right now, my very uneducated guess would be that this is similar to the signal that comes out of an amp head's, the speaker jack, prior to hitting the actual speaker cab. Alright guys, let's put together a preset to test out some of the new additions. We'll use Quick Build, and this will be a very basic preset. Looper, amp, cab, and reverb with 4 scenes. So, let's start with in 1, out 1, connect them. Alright, so now by this point, we've connected the in 1 and the out 1. Let's see if we have signal. There it is, guys. Very dry, very basic, but it is signal. Alright, now let's add the rest of the blocks. We will add the looper, amp 1, amp 2, and we want that guy bypassed, cab 1, and reverb 1. Okay, now let's close Quick Build, and now let's go into Scene Manager. We're just going to use the first 4 scenes, so we want to have amp 1, amp 2, cab 1, and reverb 1. We want all of these to be A, except for the amp blocks. We want them to be A, B, C, and D. The same thing for amp 2. A, B, C, and D. And I'll show you why we're doing that here in just a minute. Okay, now let's click out of Scene Manager, and let's go to the amp 1 block. Now for all 4 channels, we are going to use the new Diamante Fire. And I'll go ahead and put this in the other 3 channels too, so all 4 channels will have the Diamante Fire. We're going to use all 4 channels of the amp block with the Diamante Fire because we're going to try different speaker impedance curves in the other channels that will be used in the 4 scenes. So speaker impedance curve in channel A, we'll use the 1x12 Brit G12T that came with the Diamante Fire. Let's see, channel B, we'll use the new 2x12 two-stone 1265. Channel C will use the new 1x12 G12T75. And channel D will use the new 4x12 high power PT. Now, one other thing we want to do for all 4 channels is change speaker thump from its default of 2.50 to be 6. I mean, now at this point, I can't really give a definitive answer as to why I chose 6, other than I like it. I like the way that 6 feels, and 6 is good for you. You should try it. Now, before we go any further, let's go ahead and name this preset. We'll call it Diamante Speaker Impedance Curve. And then we'll name each of the 4 scenes after the speaker impedance curve in that particular channel. So scene 1 is going to use channel A. So the name of scene 1 is 1x12 Brit G12T. Scene 2 uses the 2x12 two-stone 1265. So the scene name is 2x12 two-stone 1265. Scene 3 uses the 1x12 G12T-75. So the name of this scene is 1x12 G12T-75. And then finally, scene 4 uses the 4x12 high power PT. And so the name of this scene is the 4x12 high power PT. Now we added the second amp block that's bypassed just so we can check out the depth control update to the Brit Super, the Brit 800 mod, and the JMP1 amp models. So, as we can see here, channel A, Brit Super, there's the depth. Channel B, the Brit 800 mod, there's the depth. Channel C, the JM Pre-1 Clean One, there's the depth. And just for completeness, the JM Pre-1 OD2 Bass Shift, and there's the depth. The cab block is using Factory 1 number 811, a 2x12 Brown Super 57A. And now the only reason I'm using that one is someone had mentioned it in the Fractal forum when using with the Diamante amp, so I thought, sure, we'll give it a try. And the reverb block is using one of the new reverb types, Echo Room, which is, kind of like a combination delay and reverb, so you don't have to use a delay block if you're trying to make your preset very efficient. And the only thing that we're changing on is we're bringing the mix down to 15%. So now you can see by looking up here at the CPU, it uses, anywhere between 31 and I think it said 36. So we'll say 34% for this preset. Not bad. Okay, now one thing I want to check here, we always check preset leveling to see if we're near 0 dB. Not even close. We have got to bring this guy up to 9 dB. There we go. All right, guys, let's try this test. Well, there you have it. Using the looper, it's real easy to switch between scenes, and you can definitely hear the difference between those speaker impedance curves. All right, guys, that is it for the test portion of the show. So there you have it, guys. My quick overview of the 5 firmware releases that have come out since 20.00 production back in early June. I'm telling you, summer is just a super productive time for Cliff and his crew. So, it's going to be interesting to see what comes out. I'm sure 20.02 production is going to be coming soon. Now, anyway, next Wednesday, we will be back at the factory and we will see what the random number generator spits out for us. You don't want to miss that. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. All right, guys, see you then.